and welcome
to the fifth module of the unit devoted to Brousseau and the theory of didactical situations in mathematics in the project ICMI awarded Multimedia Online Resources. In this module, we pursue the exploration of mathematical situations we have initiated in modules 3 and 4. The new situation we will study is formulation situation. Implicit situational knowledge has been recognized as useful for action. For a formulation to occur, a new situation during which formulation is necessary has to be encountered. The status of the situational knowledge changes when some aspects of knowledge are formulated, as we will develop in this module. We will now determine the necessary conditions for a formulation to occur. It's not sufficient to be asked by somebody to explain what has been done during an action if there is no reason of such a formulation in terms of efficiency. If you can act directly, you do not need to formulate the situational knowledge. In order to render the formulation necessary, the direct action has to be impossible. Two situations variables are quite common, but others exist as well. The first one is the delay of the action. We will give a simple example in a day-to-day setting. You realize on Monday that there are different items that you need for the following week, but you will go shopping only on Saturday. A strategy can be to write a shopping list. Writing here is pertinent even if you write for yourself, because if there are a lot of items, you may not be able to remind everything someday later. The second situation variable is the communication to somebody who is able to act when you are not. For example, always in a day-to-day setting, you realize that you have forgotten your passport at home and you need your passport number. You can phone home and ask the person who answers to find your passport. You thus have to formulate where your passport is. We have to insist on the fact that those situations are very different from similar situations where only action is required. In the first example, if you need different items but you can't take them immediately, writing a list is not necessary. In the second example, if you need your passport and you are at home, you will find it without having to explain that it is, for example, in your desk in the second drawer from the top. We will now schematize the formulation situation. Somebody wants to solve a problem in a situation. There is thus a stake and a milieu. We will now modelize a particular condition of a formulation situation. An actant has to act on a milieu in order to realize a given stake, but it cannot act immediately or directly for different reasons. We have seen two major reasons before: delay in time, possible action by somebody else only. The formulating actant had thus to resort to a formulation. For an actant, a formulation for an actant who is able to act, who can be the same person with a delay in time or another person. There is thus an action situation between this actant and the milieu, with a feedback to the actant about the result of the action and a feedback of the result of the actant's actions on the formulating actant. In fact, the action has been produced by the actant, but on the basis of a formulation. The whole actant situation is thus a milieu for the formulation situation. We will now return to the action situation of the raised to 20 that we have studied earlier in Module 3. During the action, in the game 1 against 1, even if there are two players, they do not communicate about their knowledge of the game, because they are adversaries, and it is counterproductive to reveal one's procedure to your opponent. We will now introduce the third phase of the raise to 20 with a quotation of Brousseau. The children are divided into two groups. In each one, the teacher nominates one child as team representative for each round, naming her at random. Any child might be called upon to define her group at the chalkboard in front of the whole assembly. If she wins, her group will receive 1 point. The children very quickly realize the necessity of planning together and discussing within each group so as to share strategies among themselves. We can schematize the formulation situation of the race to 20, which has some particularities in regard to the general schema. Before doing that, we highlight that the problem raised to 20 is always the same, but the conditions of the mathematical activity and thus the situation are different from the previous situation. If someone thinks she knows something useful that she has discovered during the previous one-against-one game, for instance, if possible you must play 17, she has to formulate her idea for the other players of her team, because she is not sure to play the game. One of the actants will play the game. A variable of the situation is here very important. The teacher will choose at random the champion of the team. Thus, if someone has an idea, she must communicate to all the others. The whole game played by the team's champion is visible and very much looked at by the other members of the team, who can see if the champion has acted according to the procedure that has been decided. The whole game thus produces a feedback on the team, who can again try to exchange together in order for another champion to win the game. We will now explain a formulation situation in the car garage setting that has been observed in experimental engineering for research with students aged 4 or 5 years old. The observation has been made by Elisabeth Leterre and Pauline Seranda for their master's thesis. The young students have already been implied in the two action situations that we had described in Module 4. Now, they will try to realize the stake to have a one-to-one correspondence between cars and garages, but they will have a collection of cars on Monday and a stock of garages on Tuesday. The validation will thus happen on Tuesday by comparison of the previous collection of cars and the collection of garages that has been constituted. On the slide, you can see Tom's written message. The observer has told us that Tom has counted the cars up to 4 and asked the observer how to write the number 4. Since the observer has declined to help him, he thus began to draw cars and finally drew something that looks like 3 cars. On Tuesday, Tom has looked at his written message and has taken 3 garages. The feedback was thus negative. There was a car without a garage. On the slide, you can now see Mona's written message. The observer has told her that Monet has drawn a car and 4 lines inside the car. She has explained to the observer that the 4 lines were for the 4 cars. On Tuesday, while picking up the garages, Mona has taken a handful of 10 garages. She has thus forgot the meaning of the 4 lines she has drawn on Monday. The feedback has been negative. On the slide, you can see now Peter's written message. The observer has told us that Peter has counted the cars and has drawn 4 lines while saying aloud, "There are 4 cars. I made 4 lines to remember them." The observer has asked Peter if he was finished, and his answer has been, "No, I still have to make 4 more lines to be sure." He has also added 4 rounds. On Tuesday, while picking up the garages, Peter has taken 4 garages. The feedback has been positive. Another possible formulation situation in the setting of the car's garages is the communication between 2 students. For example, Mona is given the cars and she must communicate with a written message to Peter in order for him to pick the collection of garages to realize the stake. The roles can thus be reversed. Peter as the writer of a new message with another collection of cars and Mona as the reader. You can find some videos showing those formulation situations in a multimedia document published in 2004 by Joël Briand and collaborators that contains video clip recorded at the Corée. We will now conclude our module on formulation situations and first give some precision about stake and milieu in formulation situation. Since direct action is impossible for the formulating actant, in formulation situation, the formulation must be efficient in order to guarantee the efficiency of the action. The stake for the formulating actant is to allow the actant to win in the action situation. The milieu for the formulation situation thus includes the whole action situation. In this final slide, we will turn back to the institutionalization process that starts from the situational knowledge and proceeds toward the institutional knowledge. During the institutionalization process, the knowledge will gradually change. We have described 2 aspects of this transformation in Model 4, knowledge usefulness and action knowledge. We can now add another aspect. Situational knowledge has evolved. It has been formulated and has become explicit. During formulation situation, other aspects of situational knowledge might have evolved. For example, the memorization during cars and garage time delay situation and the sharing of ideas during the Race to 20 team game. In the following module, we will see that there is another status of knowledge that will lead to the description of other aspects of the institutionalization process.
Thank you very much
For your attention and see you in the next module.